I do have to sometimes like put my big brother hat on or like my grandpa hat on and say, you should be absolutely scared for their life right now. You should be stressed as a parent. You should be absolutely freaking out right now. And guess what? That's modern life. You have a absolute war on your hands, and it's either you take full responsibility and take it on like a boss, or you let your kids suffer. And that might be a little harsh, but that's the truth. No one's coming to save any of us. Doctors,
Yeah.
unfortunately, aren't helping at all. In most cases. So there is a little toughness that all of us have to take on if we're going to do this thing. I will tell you this. The toughness is all mental, because once you get into the rhythm of doing these things, they all feel good and they're all more fun. And once you get the hang of it in your own way with your own balance, when your 13-year-old son, and I have clients who I work with their entire families, and when a 13-year-old son and a 9-year-old daughter come home from school and instantly get on their play crows and run outside without asking or without being on video games, because they're looking so forward to like finishing that fort or like building that tree house or like playing that game. Trust me, every fiber in your body and your family will feel that difference. It's like you have your kids back, you have your humanity back. I want people not feel overwhelmed, but I also want to warn people that it is a tough battle and it's not like an easy thing. And there's going to be some hissy fits and some bad attitudes, and you're going to have to kind of like be the grown up and be the leader and really, lead your family through it, because that's what you're here to do. You have a family and you have the power. You are a leader. So just take it on.
Welcome, everybody. Today I have Rob Stuart on the podcast, and we are going to be talking about eczema and other skin conditions in kids. Rob, known as the original Eczema Coach, healed his own severe eczema after years of suffering when nothing else worked. Since then, he has helped more than 3,000 clients overcome their skin issues and reclaim their lives. In our conversation, we explore eczema and skin conditions as symptoms, not the root problem. Rob explains what the real underlying causes often are and how skin issues in kids can connect to their challenges like ADHD, ADD, dyslexia, sleep struggles, emotional outbursts, and behavioral dysregulation. We also break down the 3 fundamental steps to begin healing your child's skin. The first is nutrition and rebuilding gut health. The second is reducing toxins in your home. And the third is lifestyle shifts that supports the body's natural healing. These aren't quick fixes. They're changes that can transform your child's overall well-being, physically, emotionally, and behaviorally. This is a hopeful and empowering conversation, and I can't wait for you to hear it. Now let's dive in. Welcome, Rob. So happy to have you here. Why don't you start with introducing yourself first and telling our listeners who you are and what you do?
Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be on, and I'm excited to jump into the topics today. I don't get to talk about childhood stuff as much as I'd like to. So I'm really interested in talking shop with you today. But I'm, like you said, my name is Rob Stuart. People call me the original Eczema Coach because I'm an old man who's been doing this for a really long time at this point. I started eczema coaching and psoriasis coaching about a decade ago. I've worked with over 3,000 people. I've run different schools. I mentor. I do public speaking. I do podcasts. But mostly I work privately with people to naturally help them overcome skin disease, whether it's eczema, dermatitis, psoriasis, or rosacea. I've created a host of protocols that get down to the root issue and slowly help people regain the biomarkers, the health markers that allow them to heal their skin. So in a nutshell, that's what I do. Like probably most of you listening to this, I was a sufferer. I had really, really bad skin my entire life. And about 13, 14 years ago, I kind of finally figured out how to put enough protocols together and change my lifestyle, diet, nutrition, cleansing, all that enough to get my skin to a super healthy and manageable place. And I haven't had any issues for a very long time. So I kind of teach from both my experience with myself and then also sharing the knowledge that I've gained working with so many amazing people.
That's awesome. Um, So, what is your experience with kids? What have you been seeing with kids?
One thing that I've noticed is just the amount of kids and parents who've come to me over the past 5 years compared to the previous seven. It seems like even things like, um, some of the groups that get out in the community and they find out how many people are actually suffering from this. I've heard as many as 1 in 4 or 1 in 3 children now have
Yeah.
some form of eczema. It seems like that's a pretty legit number. So the first thing I've seen is just a huge influx of people coming to me with young kids who have these issues. And I think that the reason behind that is pretty obvious. It's not just one thing, but it's a holistic problem. It's a modern disease issue, and it could even go so far as to what we all went through during COVID and vaccinations and medications and all sorts of things. That's the first thing I've noticed. The other thing that I notice as well is that although kids, it can be a little bit more challenging to figure out what can affect the root issue the most with kids because they're a moving, growing organism. I do find that young ones have such a robust system and they're so virile still that once parents and kids establish some really good foundational practices in their home with their diet, it can go a long, long ways pretty quickly. So that's the good and the bad that I've kind of seen pop up over the last few years with kids.
Yeah, so you see that they're very malleable, right? Like they heal much better than we do, and I believe quicker also.
Yes, they're so much more open, and they really learn so fast and natural, and I think that's what parents hopefully can pick up on in today's conversation is all of the things that the parents can do that are really low hanging fruit that can make these big changes for not only their kids but probably the entire family.
So, what have you seen that people are trying to do? Because I know, I mean, in my head, I have a few examples of people who have been trying to deal with eczema with their children for years, and they tried like all these different creams, not so much medications from what I know, but just creams, basically like topical creams. So, what have people been trying to do that isn't working? And maybe we can dive into what they should do to actually help the condition.
Yeah, that's a good jumping off start. So I think really the main thing that people are doing that doesn't generally work at all is medications. They tend to not only not work, but they tend to create other worse issues down the line, especially for young ones. Also, without kind of like getting too attacking of big pharma and not trying to be the tinfoil hat guy. Um, I'm not so sure that any of the medications that are being pushed for eczema, dermatitis, psoriasis, rosacea are even medications that were designed or built to address the issue. They're what we call in the industry leftover moneymakers, to where they didn't work for other diseases and they hurt so many people that they can reschedule them, rename them, remarket them, and rebrand them, and then push them towards people who are in rough places and who are desperate. So I'm super anti-medication for the most part, because I've seen it destroy lives, and it's scary. The other thing now, kind of stepping away from big pharma, that even parents who are like trying to eat healthy and are more on the natural side do, is they think that, or they hope that if they just change the moisturizer or they use a special cream or they make their child do a probiotic, that it's going to have some type of drastic effect. And they're pretty much always let down. Reason being is those things can be helpful. The right moisturizer, is the right thing to do, but it's not going to cure anything. This is a autoimmune and immune related root issue. And so in order to heal that root issue and have the symptoms, which are the skin disease, go away, we have to do things that directly affect the root issue. So some of the places that parents can start to look some of the foundational things that we do is one, we fully customize the diet, and we can kind of get into that in more detail. That's kind of first and foremost is what we're putting into our bodies, what the kids are getting into their system every single day is going to establish their gut biome, their digestion, their filtration system, their hormones, their foundation for overall health. And if they're eating even healthy foods that are triggering day in and day out, then it's going to be real hard to heal. So customizing the diet is a big portion of it. Number two, and this is probably the more challenging thing, is we have to really start to look at the way that our house works, meaning what do we clean our house with? Does mom and dad love candles and Febreze and incense and all sorts of chemical rich things? And getting a little strict with that is a big thing. Removing all toxic chemicals from the home, removing as much toxic chemicals from the kitchen. And that usually comes in the form of getting rid of plastic and going towards wood, metal, and glass. Getting rid of things that even the kids are wearing. You know, if your kids have basically a polyester clothed diet, it may not affect some people as much as others, but it all adds up at the end of the day. So getting the clothing, the utensils, the hygiene products and the house cleaning products, like the ones that we wash our clothing in, you know, laundry detergent, getting all of that as chemical free and natural as possible is kind of step two. That's another big one. And then thirdly, we want to look at our behaviors, how we actually live. Now with adults, we kind of do the same thing that we would kids. Kids just need more of it. And what is it? I mean, kids need to be outside playing all the time, period. And I'm not talking like 30 minutes a day. I'm talking like 3 hours a day, all day minimum. Kids need to be messy. They need to get their hands dirty and their fingernails dirty and their shoes off, and they need to break a sweat. They need to, skin their knees. Kids need a strong relationship to the outdoor world and nature. And I know this is tough, but the thing that holds them back the most from that is screen time and social media. The less social media and screen time and the more outside time, the better. Also, kids need to have some ability to do something athletic, whether they're just someone who can go outside and ride the bike and jump on the trampoline and wrestle with their brothers and sisters, or just play, or maybe joining like an organized sport or martial art or a dance class, something that gets them in community, gets them enjoying their body, enjoying other people, and moving. Those are kind of the three biggest things that if I was having children who are suffering, I would really focus on: customizing the diet, getting the house toxic free as much as humanly possible, including hygiene products and clothing. And then 3, getting them outside playing and being extremely physical. The priority for kids is not homework and is not school. It's being outside and playing and being rough and having adventures and being social. Not that I think they shouldn't be doing school. I think that they should study hard and get good grades. But if it's up to another hour of studying or an hour outside playing is going to affect their health way better, in my opinion.
Yeah. First of all, I have to say that I completely agree with you. And it's not only for their physical health, it's also for their mental health, just well-being in general. Kids need to be outside. Kids need to be playing freely as much as possible. And that has become more challenging for parents in the last 2 decades, I want to say. There are 2 reasons for that. First is the screens, as you said. And the second is that parents are really afraid to letting their kids be outside and just wander freely, even in their own neighborhood. So one of the things that parents have to start letting go of is that fear, because that fear is keeping their kids inside, isolated, not moving enough, and just not developing social skills, physical skills, everything that children have to be exposed to, just real life and nature and being outside and playing with other kids so they can develop. So that third point is just crucial for everything else, not only their physical health. So for parents who are hearing us right now, this can sound a little bit overwhelming because it's a lot of changes to do. And many people are like on the other far part of the spectrum where, the diet isn't clean and the clothes are full of chemicals and the house is full of chemicals. What are maybe the first steps that they need to do? We talked about diet, cleaning products and products around the house, and just like lifestyle and being outside. What would be the most crucial to start with? Because this has to be a gradual change. You can't change everything all at once in one day. And also, um, if they do, let's say, change the diet, start with the diet, and things are not improving, does it mean that they just have to continue with the changes? Or does it mean that maybe there is something else going on?
Yeah, good question. So I think the starting point for most people is one, getting educated on what the proper steps and things that need to be done are, which if you're watching this, you're kind of in that process. I think once you kind of have an awareness of what the root issue is and an awareness and clarity about what it takes to heal, then as a strategy, knowing, how your family works and how you work is important. And like you said, taking it very slowly and one step at a time, and looking at it as a lifestyle and a lifetime practice that you're going to continually work out forever and just get better and better at. It's like being married. You don't really look at your partner as, oh, if things come up, we just go, oh, heck, try somebody else. It's okay. We get aware of what the issues are, and over a lifetime, we get to grow together and fix these things and learn and grow and grow and grow. And this relationship is the same thing. It's just a deepening of a healing and healthy relationship with yourself and the rest of your family. So having what we teach in my private work with my clients is called the marathon mindset. Right off the get-go, do not try to make this happen in 30 days or 2 weeks. Do not be in a rush to do this in 6 months or compare yourself to other people out there. Really take your time and take each individual, every little aspect of this, and work on it slowly in a way that allows you to learn it. So for a lot of people, that means, okay, maybe step one is we're going to change our what we wash our clothes is. So, our conditioners and our detergent for our soaps for washing our clothes. Month one, we'll make sure that those are completely toxic free and chemical free, and go for something that's hypoallergenic and without fragrances. And boom, there's one little step that's pretty easy and doesn't have to do any real work, just buying a different product. And then maybe month 1, 2, we try to commit to making all of our food at home. And that's step one for the diet, is just those two things. And every month, every few weeks, just keep stacking new things once you get good at what you're doing. So once you can easily, cook the majority of your food at home, then the next step would be, okay, let's further customize the diets, remove some trigger foods, make sure they're eating all the foods that aren't trigger foods, and get into the full customization of the diet, which is something we can get into as well, kind of how to do that and the nuts and bolts overview of that. And just start small and stack these things over big chunks of time. In the course of month 1, like I said, you might just eat at home and change your laundry detergent. By month 6, you might be taking walks after dinner as a family and playing sports on Saturday and Sunday as a family all day, on top of customizing the diet and changing the detergent. Then maybe in month 8 and 9, we're doing sauna together, or you just continually stack these healing practices, and you just keep going and going and going and going and never stop. I think the second part of your question is really important. What if you start to do these things and a month goes in and nothing happens? I would say expect nothing to happen if in
Mm-hmm.
1 month. I would say your expectation should be like for a small one, a year, 2 years, 3 years. And that might sound daunting, but your child is going to be 3 years older in 3 years anyway. They're either going to be healthier and more well off, or you're probably going to just try a bunch of drugs on them. I think that the
Yeah.
choice is pretty easy. Also, within the customization of the diet, and this is where we spend a majority of the challenging work with my private clients. If in 2 months you've made a lot of changes, let's say you're eating all whole foods, your child's moving their body and enjoying time outside, you've gotten rid of all the toxicity in the home, and the skin is just worse or not better at all, that's when you have to start to get really detailed with the healing protocols, meaning you got to strip the diet down to the most minimal safe foods and rebuild the entire diet from that place using what I call the biomarker system. So generally what we see, and kids are a little bit harder to do this than with adults, but generally what we see is correlated behaviors or correlated health outcomes with bad skin. So you have a kid that's got bad skin. Does he sleep through the night? Oh, no, he never sleeps. Okay, there's a place to focus. We got a kid with bad skin. He sleeps fine, but he has really big emotional outbursts and he's really stressed all the time. We gotta then focus on that. Some emotional regulation, some nervous system regulation, some stress management skills. Let's say you have a kid who is like me, dyslexic, ADD, and school is constant suffering, frustration, and cortisol. Okay, then the family's got to build an entirely new relationship to school. Maybe that kid needs a special school or needs homeschooling or something. So it's all of these things affect the gut biome and the diet. So it's really not, oh, take out Brussels sprouts and then Bobby will heal. It's, yeah, we might take out broccoli and we might take out this or that and start to move him forward, but also we have to address everything big picture, and try to figure out why is the diet not working, along with actually making the diet work.
Yeah. I have to say that I absolutely saw those connections that you talked about with children. Many times, children that do have eczema or skin issues do have also behavioral problems. Um, why do you think that is? And maybe we can go back a few steps backward and go back to the root cause. Why is the root cause affecting also skin issues and also the behavioral issues?
Yeah, so I think that one, they are in slightly different categories. I think the behavioral issues are kind of, for me, a very easy one to disseminate. One, because most of my schooling, my master's work and my degree is in behavioral science and psychology. So this is kind of like my nerdy bread and butter. To be honest, most kids with behavioral issues that stem from dyslexia, ADD, those types of things, neurodivergent kids, they are the reflection of a broken system. There is no child up into the age 18 that should be sitting in a classroom for 8 straight hours learning, excuse my French, absolute nonsense bullshit that they don't need to know, under horrible lights, being taught by, most of the time, inefficient and stupid teachers, being taught the wrong things. So to be honest, it's like, what do we expect when we brainwash our children with crap? Their little systems are smart and are gonna fight back. Some kids who are blessed with a little bit more stoicism and manners can get through the school system and can learn, okay, if I, follow the rules and I memorize the things, I can get by and no one's going to mess with me. But even that is not a place of pure freedom of expression of, our self-worth and being taught that each one of us as an individual has some really cool and special gifts that we get to offer this world. School is just not meant for that. And I don't think that there's some big conspiracy and like they built school to turn us into sheep and robot workers and all that. but it's a very broken system. And the challenge for parents, again, and I have all the empathy in the world, is okay, then what do I do? My husband works, I work, the kid goes to
Yeah.
school. It's part of a system. And I think that there sometimes has to be a really come to Jesus moment where you got to take your moral inventory, and maybe you have to change how you run your family and how you live your life as well. And that can be daunting and that can be scary. But I think in the end, it's it's way worth it. Liberating yourself from a healthy perspective, it really does change everything. And a lot of the stresses that you take on in human life, when you kind of pull the veil back, stop being so important, and other things start to be more important.
Yeah, I agree. And I have to say also that it's not only school or homeschooling, there are so many great alternatives out there. I have quite a few episodes on this podcast where I interviewed different micro schools managers that talk about their model. And it's absolutely amazing how many other options you have. Only here in New Jersey, I think we have maybe 10 options already of just alternative micro schools. So in these schools, they are much more aware. Mostly, this is not private schools, by the way. I mean, they are private, but they're not private schools as we think of them. They are more schools that are aligned with building an entrepreneurship mindset. These schools are mostly aware of kids' needs to move, to be outside, to play, and the school is much less stricter than the regular school system, just because there is an understanding of the importance of other aspects in life that are not only the academic aspects. So those are great options for parents as well. I'll be happy to link some of those episodes in the show notes here so you can learn more about those options in your area as well. Um, but I want to go back to the question about the root causes or the root issue, because I do think, like, from what I understand, there are so behavioral issues can stem from, as you said, like the just the general way that children are raised today is not the best for them. Having them sitting all day in desks and such. Um, but also health aspects do impact behavior. Um, so how do you see the connection between the health issues, maybe the root cause of eczema and the root cause of those behavioral issues?
Yeah, great question. I think the link, in its most simplified terms, can come down to cortisol and stress hormones and inflammation. So whether it's coming from your soul, from your mind, from your immune system, or from your nervous system, if your body is under perceived stress that it cannot regulate all day, every day, day in and day out, your body just starts to literally get eaten alive from the inside out. That constant stress hormone, it affects every part of our body that allows us to be healthy and live a long life. Our bone density, our autoimmunity or immunity, our nervous system regulation, our blood pressure. And when you have these behavioral issues, most of them are because of a lot of tension within the child's body and in their mind. They're frustrated because they're not being able to express themselves and be heard the right way, or they're frustrated because they're having to sit in a box rather than run outside and wear themselves out and then come into a place of meditation and focus more naturally. So it's on a lot of levels. And then on top of that, you bring in processed foods that elevate inflammation and elevate stress within the body even more. So you have stress coming from school and stress coming from food and stress coming from the toxicity in the home. And then on top of it, stress coming from the emotions and from the mind, and all of that stress for a little person that really should only have acute stress, meaning my big sister punched me in the face. I hate her. Punch her back. That's the stress that is normal.
Yeah.
It hits you hard. It's fast. It's emotional. And then 5 minutes later, you're eating spaghetti dinner together and no big deal. kids and humans are built for that type of stress, but humans aren't built for constant low level cortisol draining, cortisol producing stress that inflames us and gets every part of our body not working correctly. And I think we see this coming out in all forms of disease, whether it's, a heart disease, whether it's cancer, whether it's Alzheimer's, whether it's skin disease. To me, these are all just metabolic and inflammatory and hormonally stress related things that we can have huge impact on with our lifestyle.
So it's not only the mental stress, right? Or the physical stress even. It's the toxic stress that we have in our bodies, right? From all the toxins we're exposed to all the time, all day, from our food, from the air, from the water, from the clothes we wear, from the cleaning products that we use. That those are the things that add on that element of stress or that additional stress that just makes the body basically break down um,
Exactly.
slowly.
Exactly. And then we have the other layer, which is the social media stress, which is, I would say, almost could be the most detrimental out of all of them. When you have a young developing mind that's getting attacked with the most sophisticated psyop of all time, they don't stand any chance. They are tapping
Yeah.
into something that overrides their dopamine system, their serotonin system, and when those things get hijacked on top of all the other issues, now it becomes very clear, man, our immune systems, these poor little people's immune and nervous systems are just getting the crap beat out of them from every angle all day, every day. And then we try to fix them by throwing drugs that then bring even more inflammation and stress to the body. So the
Yeah.
good news is, though, is that all of these stressors, we can start to remove them. You can, and I know parents probably don't want to hear this, but you can not let your kid ever see social media ever. You can remove it from their lives, period. You can get your kid outside playing more often. You can start to give some better food to your kids. You can start to, at dinner time, put away all the phones and turn off all the TVs and connect and love your kids and start to de-stress them by giving them more hugs and spending more time with them. All of these things erase the cortisol, erase the stress, reset the nervous system, especially with the young ones. They need lots of passion and play, but they also need lots of nourishment and love.
Yeah. 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 And I don't want parents to feel overwhelmed by this, because sometimes it does seem overwhelming. But as you said before, if you do things gradually and just have the goal to get to, where you want to be, then you can just take incremental steps to get there. I think that's really important to stress here for parents. Um, Also, I want to say that, you know, with knowing how kids are today with screens, I absolutely agree that their brains are being hijacked by those quick dopamine hits that they're getting from whether it's social media or it's specific video games, or just YouTube shorts, whatever it is, those short videos that are meant to keep you hooked on the screen. What it does, it just makes them not want to go outside, right? Because they don't want to really work hard in order to get that dopamine, because they already are getting the dopamine from the screens. So it doesn't allow their natural motivation system to work properly in order to want them to in order to get them go outside, build something, right? Fail at it, try harder, try to ride your bike although it's hard. This doing those hard things that really give you the true satisfaction of life and help you develop emotionally, physically, mentally, in all the aspects. So it's like you need to pull something away in order to enable the healthier option to exist. But also, you don't have to eliminate it completely. Like I'm a true advocate for limiting screen time, absolutely. But I don't think that you can completely eradicate it from children's life just because it's part of our modern world and it's part of their social groups as well, and it's gonna be hard to get them completely out of it. Social media, I agree, they don't need to be exposed to social media before ages, I don't know, 16 at the least. Um, but there is the video game aspect also, which is, it's huge, especially for boys. And I think like if we monitor what they're playing, what type of games they're playing, and if we also limit the time that they play on the screens, and make sure that right after it they're going outside and playing. So we kind of just balance that hormonal shift in their body so that they can enjoy all worlds, basically.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a tightrope to walk with balancing all these things, and
Yeah.
I think there's something to be said, and I agree with you. I don't bring this stuff up to overwhelm anyone, because the last thing I want to do is have someone think that it's so hard that they just don't even try. But on the other hand, I do have to sometimes like put my big brother hat on, or like my grandpa hat on, and say, you should be absolutely scared for their life right now. You should be stressed. As a parent, you should be absolutely freaking out right now. And guess what? That's modern life. You have a absolute war on your hands. And it's either you take full responsibility and take it on like a boss, or you let your kids suffer. And that might be a little harsh, but that's the truth. No one's coming to save any of us. Doctors,
Yeah.
unfortunately, aren't helping at all, in most cases. So there is a little toughness that all of us have to take on if we're going to do this thing. I will tell you this. The toughness is all mental, because once you get into the rhythm of doing these things, they all feel good and they're all more fun. And once you get the hang of it in your own way with your own balance, when your 13-year-old son, and I have clients who I work with their entire families, and when a 13-year-old son and a 9-year-old daughter come home from school and instantly get on their play crows and run outside without asking, or without being on video games, because they're looking so forward to like finishing that fort, or like building that tree house, or like playing that game. Trust me, every fiber in your body and your family will feel that difference. It's like you have your kids back, you have your humanity back. And can some video games be balanced in and thrown in there? Yes, I might even go so far as you kind of have to talk that language and understand tech, or you will get left behind in this modern age. But it's the timing of it and the balance of it, as you said, that I think means so much to people. So I want people not feel overwhelmed, but I also want to warn people that it is a tough battle, and it's not like an easy thing. And there's going to be some hissy fits and some bad attitudes, and you're going to have to kind of like be the grown up and be the leader, and really, lead
Yeah.
your family through it, because that's what you're here to do. You have a family and you have the power. You are a leader. So just take it on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, staying in a place of guilt, just feeling bad about what's happening and feeling bad that you didn't do anything up until now, it's not a productive place. You can take that energy of guilt, take 10 minutes and feel the guilt. That's fine, but then have an action plan. Okay, what am I changing tomorrow morning? What can I do differently tomorrow morning? And then that guilt will dissipate. Gradually, it will dissipate. But rather than getting stuck in that guilt and just not doing anything, take that guilt and take that energy of the guilt and and move it towards something that is productive. Um, so I want to go back to kind of unfolding the food thing. Um, so what are maybe the first steps that we should be eliminating with food?
Yeah. So I think the first thing to eliminate with food is processed foods in general. And sometimes people even need a definition of processed foods. So I think that really what I mean by processed foods is if it has a label on it with ingredients, don't eat it, period. Um, yeah, it's that simple. If you go and grab ground beef and you look at the label, it's ground beef, nothing else. If you buy a
Hmm.
carrot, it's just a carrot. An apple's an apple. Obviously, you buy spaghetti and there's several ingredients. You buy, cereal and there's several ingredients. So if there's more than one ingredient, don't eat it. Just and make all your food at home. That's the most basic of all levels, is eat whole foods and make it at home. That is actually probably going to be enough for about 75% of people out there to get huge gains, huge changes in the skin health and overall health of a person. Just that basic thing. And that can be challenging for some people, especially if you tend to eat out a lot or, buy, processed foods on a regular basis. So that is very entry level. Moving on from that, kind of the next tier would be looking at what whole foods should we focus on and what whole foods should we maybe limit or be wary of in the beginning. So based on my work with like I said, well over 3,000 people, the foods that are the most safe tend to be fruit, some vegetables, not counting certain ones that are spicy or generally like cruciferous vegetables don't necessarily work great for everybody. They're not the best thing to start with. They can work. We'll get to that later. But then animal fats, animal proteins. So your fish, your turkey, and here's a controversial one, pasture-raised eggs, butter, high quality dairy, almost across the board works really good. Root vegetables, fruit, and there's your starting diet right there. That's kind of your safe, healthy eczema things. Now you notice I didn't go into eat all the green foods you can, eat all the vegetables you can. I didn't mention nuts and seeds. Those are trigger foods, unfortunately. So things like nuts and seeds, grains, I completely remove those foods from my clients' diets in the beginning. That doesn't mean that nuts and seeds and also legumes, we completely remove them in the beginning. It doesn't mean that those foods aren't healthy or that some people can't thrive eating them. They're just the foods within the whole food system that have triggered the most people that I've worked with. So we remove those. And we remove all spicy hot foods, jalapenos, crushed red pepper, paprika, all gone. So we're really focusing on super basic, easy stuff. All the fruit that you could want, sweet potatoes, other root vegetables, beets, squash, things like peas and carrots. And like I said, all the fruit, and then fish, turkey, chicken, beef, bison, and using, high quality salt to flavor the food, and just keeping it really simple in the beginning is where I start most people. And then we use a process of customizing the diet through the biomarker system to then test those other healthy foods that might be more of the healthy trigger foods within people. So those come back in down the line.
So first you eliminate.
Yep, eliminate and
Everything.
simplify.
I mean, all the things that we talked about.
Yep.
What about organic?
I think organic is, and this can get a little tinfoil hatty. There might not be such a thing as organic food right now. So I don't hyper focus on organic. The way that I do my best to make sure my food's decent is I try to buy local and kind of know where the food is coming from. There is a bunch of non-organic places around me. I live in farmland where I can get better than organic fruit, but because they're not going to go through the process of getting completely ruined by the FDAA and having to register and have the fake organic stamp put on their stuff, they're just like, nah, just going to make it organic and sell it local. So buying local can sometimes be the healthiest. There are certain fruits though that you probably do want to try to make sure they're organic, and that definitely comes in the form of berries. Strawberries, blueberries, raspberries. The porous fruit can get all the nasty pesticides and things really deeply lodged in them, whereas like an avocado or a banana have that protective layer, and you can wash a good deal of it off. So if you can get organic, absolutely. But also know in the back of your head, gosh, there's problems with organic. So we do just got to do the best that we can. And, if it's between not eating fruit and eating non-organic fruit, I'll eat non-organic fruit.
And what about like the beef, chicken, fish? So is it important that the beef is going to be grass fed, grass finished, the chicken like organic chicken, or the fish that is wild caught and not farm raised? Is do you pay attention to those things as
Yeah,
well?
I try to, and I think that there is the interesting thing, and this is a lot of people don't know this, but if you didn't know if the beef was organic, grass fed or not, and you were to test it for its nutrients, you would almost see hardly any difference at all, except for in the omega-3 ratio with beef. We're talking the lowest crap quality beef compared to the most expensive, highest quality. Nutrient wise, you're not seeing a huge difference. Now, farming practices and sustainability, those are other issues to think about, but not taking that part into question, just thinking about the nutrients of the food. Um, Lower quality meat is lower quality, but you have more wiggle room with animal proteins and fats than you do with a super low quality piece of kale. I've said this a million times. Your Walmart beef is going to be higher quality than your Whole Foods kale every single time. Um,
Mm.
so
Mm.
yes, I always shoot for local, sustainably grown, pasture raised. If it can even also be a regenerative farm, even better. But for people who maybe have a real challenging budget, sticking with basic stuff like beef and turkey and chicken is probably going to be your best bet. Seafood, I do try to get wild caught, but even seafood, a fish is a fish is a fish is a fish. If fish eat corn all day or a fish eat algae all day, their protein and their omega-3 ratios are hardly different. So, and I don't, there's more to be known about the farm fished and things like that. You can always err on the side of highest quality possible, but don't let it hold you back.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's an important point because, those things are expensive and it's hard to make that transition if you're going to change, what you're buying right now into something that is much more expensive. Then that can be a legitimate thing that will stop you from doing those changes. So this is a really important point. So just buy whatever you can, whether it's not organic, and eliminate the foods that we talked about in the beginning of this question.
Absolutely.
Um,
And just one more point to add on to that. As someone starts to get more familiar with purchasing meat and buying these products, you start to see these little tricks like, oh, if I buy bone broth, it's really expensive. But if I go to my local butcher who has really high quality meat, he might just give me tallow and bones for free or for like $5, super
yeah.
cheap because they're trying to get rid of it. You take all those bones, you make homemade bone broth, and then you get bone broth and you get gelatin and you get all of these delicious, hyper nutrient dense healing foods for a fraction of the price. And all it takes is just a few hours on the weekend, standing in the kitchen, managing your crock pot. And I think these little tricks for the people that I work with who take their health to the fullest level and want to keep it on a really tight budget, which everyone can respect. That's the things that they do. They just find these little things that allow them to get super nutrient dense, great foods and not have to deal with it. Another thing is almost every town, whether you're in Pensacola, Florida, San Diego, California, or Iowa, like I am, look for local people that have pasture raised eggs or just caged, eggs that they grow at their home. Homemade eggs are, the home created eggs. Even if someone just has a little backyard chicken coop, those are super good quality. And finding someone that you can get eggs from, or raw cheese from, it lowers the price and it just also makes it so that it's higher quality.
Yeah. So, can you say a little bit more about the raw milk and raw cheese? Is that more important, like to buy raw than just the regular stuff at the
So
store?
dairy is a really good question, and it seems that normal milk, so pasteurized milk, which means milk that's been heated up to take away the germs and the bacteria, seems to be the most problematic of dairy in general. Whereas
Agree.
grass-fed butter and ghee, even if it's not raw, is almost able to be used by every client that I work with across the board. Conversely, yogurt that is yogurt and not just in the milk form, even if it's, you know, pasteurized, heated up, still seems to do pretty good with people. It works. It doesn't negatively affect most people. Now, if you can get raw cheese is much easier to find than raw milk and raw yogurt, but raw milk and raw cheese and raw kefir and raw dairy products seem to, for certain people, be very healing. Almost like, I don't like the word superfood, but they're as close to a superfood as I've seen. I have seen some people basically eat some fruit, some animal fats and proteins, and then focus primarily on drinking raw goat milk and have huge success with their gut and their digestion and their skin health. But that's not everybody. So I kind of put dairy in, if you can get high quality raw dairy, it's worth experimenting with. I think everyone can do good with ghee and butter, especially if it's grass fed. And then later on in the process, maybe month 4 or beyond, when you're customizing the diet and you're testing foods, dairy like yogurt, kefir, and then raw dairy is something that you should test and see, because it does open up a lot of nutrition, a lot of calories, and for most people, they enjoy the taste. So it makes eating whole foods easier. I'm all about trying to make very basic home cooked whole foods taste as delicious as possible, because I think that's the point where if you really enjoy every meal, it's makes it harder to not be sustainable.
Yeah. Yeah. And it brings back that true joy and true satisfaction. For me, it relates a little bit of what we talked about before with our children, right? Just having them play outside and build a fort rather than sit inside and play a video game. It's working to achieve something that you created by yourself. It gives you that really true satisfaction in life that we all just need to be happier.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is something simple that builds self-confidence as a human being and as a head of a family, to where you're like, I can provide healthy food for my family and we eat it and we enjoy it and it tastes good. And afterwards, we all feel great and we all look better. We're thinner. We're more muscular. We're more energized. We sleep better. Me and husband are having sex more. Like all the good stuff. It all snowballs when you kind of start even just one simple thing like eating healthy at home.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Rob. This was such an insightful conversation. I know I learned a lot. And thank you for all the really important information that you gave us. If people want to contact you, learn more about your work, how do they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're looking for just more information and content to kind of educate yourself and to get inspired, of course, I'm on the YouTube and I'm on Instagram. On the Instagram, my handle is Rob Stuart, and it's spelled Stuart. And on YouTube, it's just Rob Stuart, my real name. As far as hiring me to be a one-on-one coach, if you'd like to book a discovery call, you can go to the original eczemacoach.com. That's where you can find out about how my private coaching works, connect with me to book a call. And I do work with families and individuals. And the work is basically all the stuff that we talked about today. I help people customize their diet, cleanse and detox their bodies in their homes, and then get all of the daily habits, whether that's meditation, prayer, exercise, fitness, mobility, fascia work, play. I help them create protocols and routines for all of that. So we take a very holistic approach, and we help people long term to get everything set up so that they can get their skin nice and healthy.
Incredible. Thank you so much. And I'll make sure to link all those in the show notes below also.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. It was really nice to talk to you. And I always learn a lot from other people as well. So thanks for doing what you do.
Thank you.